Come on.
And we're live. Yay!
Susie and I were
Imagine
doing
that.
a quick hairstyle, so I hope we look fabulous for you today.
Exactly.
Because we do have to look good for the festivities after all, Susie.
I should have worn my red sweater. I'm sorry.
Well, I would be wearing my Christmas outfit, but it's about 9,000 degrees right now. I'm in the tropics, so I'm not putting anything silly on my head.
Oh,
So,
goodness.
honoring our animals and space during festivities. I think a lot of people forget that their animals are also included in celebrations, and it's big celebrations like Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year or Hogmanay or whatever it is you celebrate in your particular country, in your tradition. It's like, how can we include and be aware of our animals' unique requirements and desires through this period? Because I think a lot of the times people just get so carried away and alcohol's consumed and more people turn up and the music's on and the energy can be very different for an animal to what it's used to. So, what would be your top tips, Susie, in regards to contributing and supporting our furry and feathered friends through these festivities?
Well, I think I think the first thing that I would suggest is to really tune in prior to the festivities happening and really getting a sense of, like, does my animal need to be included in the festivities?
Mm.
Um, because it could be that your animal wants to be there for the meet and greet, but then it kind of gets tired of all the people and it starts to really freak out a bit and all this kind of stuff. And I think this is where a lot of people come to the conclusion, well, of course my animal is included in the festivities, but what if it wasn't an of course? What if it was actually a question? And
Mm.
what if you would allow yourself to know, hey, maybe my animal is actually enjoying being in my bedroom for a few hours at least, or, whatever it might be, maybe even in its crate for a little bit, so that it actually gets some breathing time too. And again, what if that wasn't a wrongness, but actually an awareness of what's required? And your animal might be totally fine during the whole time. But like Viv said, we get a little carried away, lots of people, and also alcohol, music, all this kind of stuff can have a huge impact on your animal. And you want to be aware of that. And that goes for birds too. Some birds are really sensitive to all of that. And it may not work for your bird to be in the middle of that day. Maybe you want to move your bird into a different room. But that goes for your cats, your dogs, whatever else you might have at home. Just really keep an eye on it. Really, truly, the most accident with dogs actually happen within the family. The most dog bites are not with strangers, they are at home. So those are the kinds of situations actually where this could happen, where people are reaching for your dog had enough, but doesn't have a place to retreat. And so now it's like, oh shit, what now?
Mm.
And the dog goes into self-defense, possibly. So yeah.
Yeah, and being aware of that. And just like you said, Susie, what if it was a question? Hey, does my dog want his own space? Because often, there are people coming into your house that may not be animal aware, or they might not be comfortable with animals, or you've got small children that don't know how to be around animals. You know how sometimes kids can crawl all over them or ignore the warning signs of a lot of the dogs wanting to withdraw, or they turn their face away, or they try and be non-confrontational. But a lot of the times those hints and requests that the animals make are ignored, or they're just not recognized by a lot of people. So if you're bringing children into your house, or kids get really excited around Christmas time and they're full of probably a bit more vim and vinegar, or whatever you call it. They're a bit more enthusiastic and a bit louder and a bit more erratic, and animals are very sensitive to that as well. So what space does your animal require? And could you, like you said, Susie, could you make a nice quiet spot in one of the bedrooms and just let people know, look, this is off limits if you've got children, or your dog stays outside, or whatever the environment is. So, and it's the same for cats as well. I mean, cats they probably retreat as well, but it's just very much about being aware and including your animals. And the other thing too is, you could have the total opposite, where your dog could be very friendly and it's around the barbecue, or it's around the dinner table, or it's looking for scraps, or it's breaking into Christmas presents that might be food under the tree. There's all sorts of opportunistic hounds out there that would love to get their mouth around some tasty morsels, which may not be good for their body as well. And I think a lot of people feed dogs thinking that it's a kindness. And, I think it's good to always ask the caretaker or the owner of the animal, hey, is it okay if I give your dog a bit of chicken? Or is it okay if, it's just being respectful of, even flipping this around, being respectful of the actual owners as well, because some animals are very sensitive to certain types of foods as well, and some animals shouldn't eat certain types of foods. So yeah.
Yeah, and flipping it around, like you said, Viv, if you do have children and you go to someone's home that has animals, please keep an eye on your children. Don't assume that, oh, their animal has always been friendly, even if your children know this particular animal and have been there before. What if you still please had an eye on everything? Because, like we said a couple of times, it's sort of a different energy when there's a lot going on. And sometimes that escalation of energy is something that our animals are very much sensitive to. And so they may not behave in the same way that we're used to. And, like we've said, dogs have very clear warning signs, but they are not obvious if they're not a growl. And even with children, sometimes when the dog growls, they don't get it. I've seen kids pet a dog that was growling at them, and I'm like, hey, you may want to step away now, okay? So they don't necessarily know, and they just assume this dog has always been friendly, and I just could have always done whatever I wanted with this dog, but maybe not that particular day. So please just be aware. And it's not that you have to hover over everything, but if you get a sense all of a sudden, like, hey, what's up, and you do as a parent, please, we all know that, please follow those little hunches and don't ignore them, because that could be the very first little moment of, oh, wait a minute, I should have gone there, I should have known, so please don't have a retrospect of, don't have hindsight, okay? Have awareness.
Yeah, very much so. And obviously it's coming up to Thanksgiving in the States as well. And that's a very big day. Like you say, Susie, lots of people may turn up at your house. You might have music on. Be aware of sounds as well. I know that fireworks may or may not be a thing for Thanksgiving, but I'm thinking of other celebrations that we have around the world where maybe firecrackers or fireworks or loud banging things. A lot of people underestimate the trauma that can trigger with animals too. So it's just being aware of creating that space for your animal to feel secure, to know that it can have its own area and its own zone where it's not going to be, trampled on or its space disregarded and disrespected. Because like you say, it's better to, address the situation than actually try and do damage control afterwards, because sadly the animal is the one that gets into trouble a lot of the times, even though it's done its best to communicate in the way it does, to ask for some space. Hey, back off, you're in my face, I'm not comfortable with this. And to growl or to bite is pretty much, it's kind of like the last thing that an animal will do to protect itself or ask for something. So if you're not aware of those subtle body languages or those movements or those looks or the low growls or whatever, avoid the situation entirely, which was, our desire for doing this live today, to maybe make you a little bit more aware of being prepared. It's better to be organized before a situation rather than have to try and deal with it afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much so. And especially, dog bites, you definitely don't wish to have that on your holiday. That's something you definitely want to be aware of, not creating. And so again, the main thing here is that you be in the question and not assume anything, because your dog might be the most relaxed animal in the world, but this might be the first festivity that it's had with you. So unless you have a track record and you already know stuff, if this is a newer animal that you've just added in the last year, and this is your very first time that there's a big festivity and you haven't seen your dog around that yet, or your cat or your bird, it doesn't really matter, then please, be in the question, what is required, be prepared. Like Viv said, it's so easy to set up something, and even if you say, I can't do it in my bedroom, I can't do it in my bathroom, then find another spot. There is always a spot, the laundry room, whatever it is. And even that, please don't come to conclusion, oh, I can't lock my dog in the tiniest room of the house, it's unkind. No, it might actually be the kindness that you're being. So, don't assume like a small room is unkind, or looking your dog away is unkind. It might be the opposite. So this is the important part. Yes, your animal is part of your family, and you're not abandoning your animal. It's really about being aware, being willing to say, you know what, I think Fluffy had enough, let's put Fluffy away.
And if you are going to put them somewhere, give them something that's familiar to them. Put their bed in there, put some toys in there. If it's your cat and it's got a little cat house, put your cat house in there. So they're not feeling they're not feeling completely kicked out. They have a level of something that's familiar and comfortable, because if their environment has suddenly changed, anything that is familiar to them will give them a sense of reassurance, or just give them something that's familiar to them. So what we're saying is, just be aware, ladies and gentlemen. That old
Exactly.
chestnut. Thank you, Suzy. Anything else?
No, I
Enjoy
think that was
Thanksgiving, everybody.
exactly. Enjoy your festivities. This was not to put a damper in. This was to put it so that it will be ease, joy, and glory, and you have a good time. So please stay aware. That's all.
That's all we're
Thanks,
suggesting.
everybody.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. See you next
See you
time.
next time.